Hey girls, it's Bree.
It's Cece.
It's Angela.
And you're tuned into
For the Girls.
Before we jump into today's episode, we have a review.
Woo.
This is a highlight from writing a review on This is a podcast review. Says, great perspective. I am glad I can finally relate to some women. I enjoy the podcast. It definitely gives off mature, enjoyable, and informative vibes. And that's from Raina Bana. I love the name.
Thanks, babe.
Thanks,
Yes.
girl.
I want to shout out because I met this wonderful girl named Brittany at the parking lot in Target. I didn't tell you about this. I look rough as hell too. So she's not gonna admit to that. But I had like my friend at work took like crown of braids out and I just had the perimeter up. And I was like, crap, I got no conditioner. So I gotta go to Target. And I was like wrangling Alina out and I heard this voice, not my favorite podcast girl. I was like, oh, shit. I look crazy. But she was so sweet. So I want to shout out Brittany. And we connected on Instagram right after that. And thanks again for listening. She had 2 beautiful daughters. And Alina asked, can I pet your dog?
I know.
And so she pet her cute dog. So thank you so much for listening, Brittany.
Love it.
Hey, Britt.
I actually met somebody too. Like, this was like a while ago. Actually, when we first started the podcast, and I had like just came back from like solid core or like F45, and I was looking crazy.
Right. You
I
always
was like,
meet
I was mad
people.
sweaty.
We always miss our
I'm pretty sure
listeners
I
when we look
stank.
crazy.
Like it was not attractive. And she was like, oh my God, what's your podcast? And I'm just like, thank you.
No, I feel like I always run into people when I look the worst.
Like,
And I'm like,
seriously.
oh, you recognize me.
Because in my brain, I was like, run in, run out, grab the conditioner, and let's go.
Yeah.
Nope. Right when I was trying to wrangle Alina out, not my favorite podcast girl. I was like, oh, shit. But she was so sweet.
Yeah.
So sweet. So I told her I'd shout her
it.
out. So
Hey,
nice
I
to meet
I do
you,
want to
Brittany.
say this because a lot of times people will DM me and they're like, oh, I saw you earlier at such and such. I didn't know if I should come and say hi. So for all of you listening, we love meeting people that know us or listen to the podcast.
Even if we look crazy.
And we're girlfriends. We're literally your girlfriends.
Yes.
So virtual or audio girlfriends. So definitely say hi because it makes our day.
Yes.
And we will definitely show you love. All right, Angela, let's jump
All right,
into
guys. So let's get into it. All right. Our girl wants to remain anonymous. Hey, girls. I love your show. I've yet to miss an episode. Thank you so much for your advice. You all are truly inspiring. Please help a girl out. I've recently started dating a man with a 3-year-old daughter. It's going on 6 months now, and things are going well between us. We're starting to talk about me meeting her, and he's told me that when the time comes, I will have to meet the mom first. I understand that if I'm going to be around, the mom has every right to meet me. I'm just nervous about it all. Things always seem cool between co-parents until another parent is in the picture. Now I have anxiety about will the mom care and wondering if the daughter will like me, how she'll take her parents not being together anymore, etc. Mainly due to the trauma I have around being raised in a blended family. Am I tripping? Is it normal to feel this way? How soon is it too soon to meet a child? Can you please discuss dating a man with kids? Thank you. Girl, we got you on this one, honey. Mm-hmm. For sure.
especially Angela.
Right. I married one.
She was you. So
I was
yeah.
I was you. Literally you. I met Amaris when he was 3. So here we go. Let's talk about it. So let's first start talking about have we dated men with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all have.
I have. It wasn't ideal for me, but.
I mean, yeah. Okay. Let's get this out. There's going to be good people in every situation. So there are men who have children who might not necessarily be your person.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
they might not be a good person either and still be doing kind of some trifling shit that a person without kids could be doing as well.
Okay,
so let's put that
amen.
disclaimer out there right now. And it does make it way worse because if you meet their kids and
Yeah.
it could get sticky. But I don't even want to go down that road.
Did you meet the guys that you date
I
with kids?
did.
You met their kids?
And I actually thought
How'd
it
that
was inappropriate.
Because
Because I felt like I shouldn't be meeting your kids.
Was it like sprung on you?
A bit. So like we were like hanging out. I knew he had kids. He actually had 2 kids that were like a year apart, or like less than a year apart, with like 2 different women. so
Where
it was a lot.
Where are flags,
It
right?
was a lot of red flags. So it was a lot. And honestly, like our relationship, well, I'll say, in my eyes, our relationship was very casual. And that's kind of how I was trying to keep it. He wanted to take our relationship to like the next level, but this is back in my toxic Cece days where I was just like, I'm just here for a good time, not a long time. So, you know, it was, I think it was like, it was very much so sprung on me, and it was kind of awkward. I think he wasn't supposed to have his kids that day. And then like the moms were like, no, you need to keep them. And so I had already planned to like come over, and they were there. And I was like, oh,
Hey, y'all.
and like, this is like at the time where I wasn't a fan of children, you guys. Like I used to have a very strong feeling of I don't want any kids. I did not like kids. I did not like to be around kids. So like that also was very much so like, But I also think he tried to spring it on me because, like I said, he was trying to take it to the next level, and he was like, you'd be a great stepmom. And I'm like, this is not gonna work for me. So it was just like, I thought it was inappropriate because I knew that I wasn't going to be around for a long time. And I felt like he's just kind of like very open and willy-nilly about bringing his kids around any chick. Like, because I'm sure he'll probably do the same thing with the next one.
Right.
How long were you
saying?
guys dating?
Girl, it was brief.
More than 6 months? Less
No,
than 6
absolutely
months?
not.
This
It was
girl's been
definitely
with her
less
dad for
than
6
6
months.
months. It was probably less than 3 months.
Okay.
Like, so it was just, I think it was definitely on him. Now granted, he wasn't like a gem of a human being
Right.
either, you know. So
Yeah.
like I didn't have that much expectation on him. But in my opinion, it was way too soon. It was inappropriate. We did not discuss it. I think that there does need to be a timeline and some boundaries, because you want to make sure like you're going to stay around for a while on both ends. Like the person who has the kid, you shouldn't be just introducing your kids to just anyone that you may or may not be with for the next couple years. And then, you know, for you, it's like, why do you want to meet someone's kid and like potentially like get attached to them? And then what if you guys don't work out? Now you done met the kids.
Yeah.
And like, it's messy.
Yeah.
It's messy.
And
The guy I dated had 3, but they were all from a previous marriage. So it was one of those things, like once I found out, we immediately had a conversation of like, so what does that look like for you and like the future? Because I was open to it because I love kiddos, and I was like, oh, and I saw pictures like their ages, and I was like, they're so cute. And so I was like looking forward to meeting them, but I was obviously like, we need to be strategic because I don't want to meet them too soon. But what I liked about how he went about it, he was like, well, I don't feel it's important for you to meet my ex-wife until like at least she's aware that I'm dating you and you meet the kids first, because if my kids don't like you, there's no point in you meeting her. Like that type of thing.
that's different.
And
Yeah.
for her, same thing. Like they were married and they talked about what their relationship was like moving forward. And it was one of those things where it's like, if you like someone enough and you have been with them for at least, I think they did like 10 months, like at least 10 months, then, you know, I trust you at the right time that you would introduce the kids to them. But it was like, you had to be introduced as a friend, like not like this is daddy's girlfriend, like this is my friend. And then just make sure that that's all copacetic. And then if that makes sense, when you're at like that 1 year mark after the kids kind of gave the approval and it's a vibe, then that's when she would want to meet the person and vice versa. So I really liked that. But Instagram happened. And so she found out who I was and she did not like me, didn't know me. Just I was younger and, you know, popping on the gram. And she was like, I
don't want her but my kid.
But we ended up meeting the kids. The kids loved me. And then when I finally met her and she got over it, it was a thing. But what I will say is, obviously I'm not with that man anymore. So the breakup part and the whole, like when I found out that he was cheating, it hurt so much more because of his kids, because of what I did for his kids, because of the way that
How long were you guys together?
Almost 2 years.
Okay.
So like a year of us being together, I was around the kids. And like, I mean, like bathed them, did their hair, took them to school, got them school
You
supplies.
like really leaned into that stepmommy role.
Yeah. And so I was just like, so it definitely hurts more. And then I do feel that, you know, when you're introduced too soon, it can put pressure on the relationship because what happens if that kid doesn't like you or the energy's weird or, you know what I mean? Like it's just uncomfortable. And sometimes that can put pressure like mentally, even with her, she hasn't even met the kid or the mom yet. And she's already having anxiety.
Right.
So I think that how you go about it makes a big difference.
Do you wish that you would have done things differently as far as leaning so much into like that stepmommy role with the children? Like, do you feel like maybe?
No, I do feel like I put up boundaries. Like, for example, I told him like I wouldn't spend the night if he had the kids. So like I might come over.
Sorry, the dude I was talking to.
He's like, stay over.
No, like literally, I spent the night and like the kids were over and I was supposed to spend the night.
They was coming into bed.
Girl, I swear to God, I can't make this up, y'all. Like, I was supposed to stay the night that night. He had his kids over, and the kids slept in his bed. So I'm like, well, where are we going to sleep? And he was like, oh, on the couch. I was like, I'm not sleeping on nobody's couch.
Stop.
So I went home. I was like, see, this not going to work out for me.
Stop. They don't even have a bedroom? No. That's a bigger red flag that your children don't have a bedroom.
This was like in my 20s, and like he was also like in his 20s. Like, so,
I feel that.
You know.
Wow. Yeah. Dang. No, I think I did go putting boundaries up. I was like, this is what I'm willing to, this is what I'm not willing to do. And he never asked like, oh, can you pay for X, Y, and Z for my kids? Like I would do it if I had it and like just wanted to, you know. But it was like once we were consistent and the kids met me, I was only seeing them like once every other week. So like twice a month was when I would see them.
Okay. All right.
So, okay, before Sean, I don't know if you guys have been following for a while, I had like the no dating kids rule.
It was part of your list.
Yes, and then I like slashed it and started kind of going through my little exploratory phase, which we talked about. Go to other episodes, guys. And then I did meet a guy who I dated briefly. He was the first guy who had a kid that I had ever dated. It wasn't like a relationship, we were dating. And then Sean was next. And what I noticed about this guy and Sean, and just in my experience, is they were both serious. Like they didn't want to pity patter and kind of placate. They were very intentional, both of them. They, not because they wanted to find a stepmom. It was, if I was going to be in their life, then it had to be serious. So obviously the one guy, I didn't really go that way with him. I wasn't feeling it. So I ended that. And then I met Sean not too long after. And, you know, he let me know like right away that, well, actually from his Instagram, I knew he had a kid. I thought he had a whole family. But
you just wanted that free dinner.
No, I actually like, cause I remember, I don't know if I told the story. He followed me on Instagram. I remember seeing him cause I was like, this one's fine. He was liking all my pictures. You know how someone goes through and likes all your pictures. And I was like, let me go to his page. First thing I saw was Amaris. I was like, oh, he's one of them. He has a family over here liking a girl's picture. So I like swerved to the left. And then like a few months later, my sister was like, let me hook you up with this guy. I was like, okay, let me see his Instagram. And she sent it to me. I was like, oh, I follow this guy. I was like, oh, the guy with the family. Turns out he didn't have a family. Because, I mean, you know, the mom wasn't on the page. I just saw the kid. I immediately assumed, oh, he has a family. Swerve. And, but, so, you know, we went out on our first couple dates and da-da-da-da-da. And then as things got more serious, we discussed Amaris and the mom. And, you know, they had their own dramas, which I don't need to get into on the podcast. They had their own dramas, but it was said she was very adamant about me meeting her before I met Amaris. So, and Sean wanted us to be engaged before that happened.
Before you met Amaris. Oh, okay.
And so I don't know if that necessarily sped up any timelines or whatever. Sean's a very intentional guy. Yeah. He knows what he wants.
Maybe he did.
You know, we dated for a year and a half, and then he proposed to me. So, no, not even a year and a half. A year and a few months, and he proposed to me. So I don't know if the kid thing sped that up, if the mom wanting to meet me thing sped it up. I don't know.
So what you're saying is there's hope if these women out here dating a man and
what
they're
I'm
like,
saying
you can't
is,
be my kid until engagement. And I was like, well, what we waiting for then?
well, that wasn't a restraint that Amaris's mother put on him.
Yeah, no.
The restraint.
I'm being facetious.
No, yes, but I do think part of that was taken into consideration because when you marry a man who has a kid, you're not just marrying him, you're marrying his whole situation.
Absolutely,
not
girl.
just the kid,
Not just the
baby
kid,
mama.
and not just the
really
kid.
take into consideration.
You're marrying him, the baby mama. You're not, you can't
Her
like
whole
not,
family too,
Yeah,
like not
you
just
can't.
her.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. You can't not meet her or marry her. And so like the person who wrote it, and I had my own traumas around blended families because my dad and my siblings' mother did not get along, still don't get along till this. They don't talk. They don't speak positively about each other. Like that's just all I saw. I just saw hate. So that's what I thought it was supposed to look like. So I had anxiety around the situation too. So I can totally, completely 100% relate to the person writing in because you're coming in after obviously this person had a romantic relationship with the man you're with now. Mm-hmm. I mean, how are kids made? Whatever the situation might be, there was some type of romantic something that happened.
At some point, yeah.
You know? And then it ends, hopefully, for most people. I mean, we've heard the stories of where that doesn't end.
Yeah. I got a story about that too.
And there can be drama around it. And I'm not going to say or lie on the podcast. There was drama around my stepson's mother and husband's split. And that's their business. So you take that, there's baggage. There's baggage. And then there's a woman who comes in and is now essentially taking what she thought was her spot. So, and we've talked, like, we'll get into this. Everything that went down with me and Amaris's mother was incredibly mature and was better than I could have ever thought.
Oh, good.
So it can totally be 100% pleasant. It actually can be really beautiful. And like you said, you marry this person, you marry their baby mother, you marry their family. Like when we go to visit Amaris, we visit him and his grandmother and his aunt and his cousins. And they're all just very amazing, welcoming people that I've met. So, and imagine if they were not, you know what I mean? Imagine if they weren't.
That relationship would look a lot different.
A lot different. I don't know about me and Alina going down to see Amaris lives in Florida, going down to Florida and, kicking it and getting a hotel room and spending time around his family if everybody wasn't mature enough to be able to have a relationship with each other, and I really do think, and we can get into this more later because I know we'll probably peel it apart. I really think it does depend on the man.
Yeah.
100%.
I was just going to say that the reason why your situation was what it was had a lot to do with Sean and how Sean maneuvered and decided to be intentional with like how he spoke to you, how he spoke to the baby mama and make sure like everyone understood like, hey,
boundaries.
This is what it is. This is what it isn't. Yeah. And you guys then did your part.
Yeah. And I cannot sit here and say I understand what it feels like to be the baby mother. You know what I'm saying? Because I've never been that. So I can't sit here and understand what Amaris's mother went through. Because I never will. And I can try to have empathy, but I'll never completely understand her side. But what I can say from my side and to our person who wrote in is I understand what it's like being the stepmom. And it's difficult because you have to find this balance between being supportive, but also completely respecting visible and invisible boundaries. It's probably one of the most difficult balancing acts, most unselfish things you have to do for love. Because you have to, it was very clear from the beginning. Amaris's mother wanted to, you're not replacing me. Rightfully so. Like, she had her role in his life, and 100%. So I had to figure out what my role was. I didn't want to be the evil stepmom. But I also didn't want to be the one holding and like supporting him and coddling him the way that his mother does. Yeah. So it's still like a thing I'm trying to figure out from day to day. Like, if Amaris is calling and he's in trouble and Sean's asking me for advice and I'm like,
yeah,
he's wrong for this, but talk to his mom. Like, it's such a hard balance.
Yeah.
So that I think that's one of the most difficult things, is finding the balance between respecting her boundaries. And then I'm sure Sean had boundaries too on how I talk to Amaris's mom. And he never really had boundaries with me and Amaris. He knew I worked with children. He completely trusted me. But how, I talked to him, and how just really it was a lot and it's still a lot we're sorting through. And I'm sure as he transitions into teenage years and starts getting into
it's a whole nother
teenage things, I'm gonna have some things to say, but I'm not his mom. So it's like you have to figure out who you are in the equation. But it's not to deter the person who wrote in. It can be a very, very beautiful thing. So yeah, that was my gist on date. I did date one person before Sean who had a kid. Didn't work out. Didn't meet the kid. Never even talked about meeting the kid. I had no desire to. Then when I started dating Sean, after we dated for some time, I did have a desire to meet his kid. This is the person he was going to see all the time and who was taking his time away from me.
Yeah.
And I'll say this as a side note, dating a man with kids, I was always used to dating with somebody and being around them all the time. With him, it was totally different because I had to share the time.
Why I never liked dating men with kids personally is because I like my man to be all about me.
That's what I'm saying.
All the time.
And it's not to say he wasn't all about me, because when he was with me or when he was away from me, he was texting me.
Yeah.
But
I didn't
the time,
I didn't want to share.
So I had to fill my time with things for me, which in the end turned to be completely positive.
Yeah.
Usually when I would get with somebody, I would fall off on my workout routine or fall off on the things that I was doing before, which is kind of a natural thing for a lot of people who get into a serious relationship. We've talked about this. But I really couldn't, because there would be weekends where he had Amaris, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do this weekend? Hang out with my friends. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine actually hit me up last night and was like, hey, I'm struggling with my relationship right now because I feel like my man is making everything about his daughter and not enough about me, in a sense of I thought we had an agreement of where my place was, and the time that we spend together, the three of us, the time that him and I spend, time that the child and I spend, and that he and the child spend. And what I told her, I was like, what are you doing in the time that he's spending with her? When he's not with you, what are you doing? And she couldn't really give a solid answer.
Nothing,
and I was like, it's healthy to have separation. It's healthy to dedicate time to something. And I listed 3 things immediately that she could focus on that would actually be super beneficial to her in that time. And that made her feel a lot better to be oh, if I dedicate my time to something else, then it won't feel as this imbalance. It's no, he has priorities, 2 of them being me and his child, and the other what he does for a living. And then my priorities are going to be him, that
and
child,
me.
and then what is your thing?
And
know?
I think
it's almost
I think
forced separation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Kind of
really
good for
good.
you.
It's actually kind of good,
Yeah.
because even I've never, obviously my husband and I did not have kids when we got together. Now we have our daughter together. But even now in our family unit, there's times where I need to be away from both of them. I don't want to see Capri. I don't want to see Shay.
I had those times too, honey.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's really good in whether you're dating someone with a kid or you guys are starting your own family together, is like, don't lose sight of yourself.
And that was something I always did.
Yeah.
So it was almost like God knew, like, even though I had did my little healing phase we've talked about, my detox, and as I started dating again, like, I could feel myself going with it, because right when I met Sean, it was like, oh my God, this is the guy. Like, I completely, like, I stopped. I was like very like every Saturday morning I'm gonna go run, and I was doing it for like 6 months straight, and then I met Sean, and he's the one that threw me off. But every other Saturday I still went on that run because he was with Amaris. And the thing is, Sean would be calling me while he's with him, and so it was like,
still made you feel a part of his world.
It did.
And that's important. It's all about how the guy maneuvers.
It's really about him.
So speaking of the men, what do you guys think is a realistic or a healthy timeline or time frame for when the person with a child should be introducing the child to the partner?
That's one of those things where you cannot control it as the woman on the other side.
Yeah.
And that was so difficult. Like, I could not control that 150%. Like, I need to meet your child now. And I know women do that. Like, women do that. Like you try to force the hand. You cannot, because if he had pissed off Amaris's mom, then what? By like, I'm going to introduce Angela to him now.
Yeah, naturally she would have had a negative feeling towards you.
And it was already negativity around the whole situation.
Yeah,
like, it wasn't
hard.
a comfortable situation for him, for her, and for me, like, for all different reasons. But I mean, she made it clear that that was something she needed, and he tried to respect that. And it's also, I think, something he would eventually want now from Amaris's mom. Like, if you're going to bring a man into my son's life, I would like to meet him. So it's just, and I'll say this, I was so used to seeing unhealthy, toxic co-parenting behavior that now that I'm seeing a healthy co-parent relationship, it's way better because there's so many things you can be flexible on if you just talk to each other. And if you're not able to talk to each other, then things cannot happen. Like, technically, we're supposed to have Amaris right after he gets out of school. School was done Friday. But Amaris's cousins are coming to visit their grandmother in Florida. So Sean was like, I'm going to let him hang out with his cousins for 2 weeks. It's okay. I can give up that time because I want him to have that. And she was able to ask him that, like, instead of, no, court mandated, I get him on June 1st and I'm coming to get him on June 1st. And that's how my parents, my dad and my siblings' mothers were. Like, it was bad. Like, we was up and down the highway, like, at random time. It was bad. Like, it can get really bad. So I fully encourage women who are with a man that has a kid with another woman, encourage that man to foster a healthy relationship, a healthy co-parent relationship, because it makes y'all's relationship better too. It's less arguments.
I mean, I agree with Angela. You can't really control, what the man does, but I'll spin it a little bit for my women out there who are dating and they have a child. I think it's determined based off of the intentionality of your relationship with your partner.
Right.
So, like, for me in my relationship, if my husband were to have had a child, by the nature of like how quickly our relationship progressed, I would have probably met that child very early on because we were very intentional about our relationship very, very early on. Like, we went to couples counseling at like 5 months in. Not because we needed it, because we wanted to build new skill sets. So I think that is really the factor of like how, like, the time frame in which you are going to bring children into your relationship. But for me, I would say like around 6 months. If this is my caveat, if your relationship is intentional about going to marriage. Like, if you guys are just dating and just like, like we'll see how it goes, like, over like the next few months, and like we'll check in like at a later date, like see if we actually want to like lock this down. We shouldn't be meeting anybody's children.
Right.
Like, So, but But if you have those types of conversations early on and you're like, listen, this is what I'm looking for, and you guys are on the same page about that, then those types of conversations like, okay, well, I have a child and I want you in my life, and my child is my number one priority, and I want to see what that looks like, blending you two together. Let's discuss what that next step would look like.
Yeah, I think it's important if you're dating someone with kids, even like in the first few months, to just ask like what the future holds in terms of like what the person you're dating and the co-parent, what they've decided, because it's really not up to you at all. So it's like, what have you guys decided makes sense when one of you meet someone that you're serious about. That way he can't deviate from what he said.
Yeah.
Because I have noticed that at times, like you might meet someone with a child and they're like, oh, like after like 3 months or 6 months, they might say that. But then 3 months, 6 months comes by, and like Cece said, they're like not bringing it up again.
Yeah.
So it's like, you want to know what the plan is so that one, you can hold that person accountable to that, because if it's not happening, then it means that maybe he doesn't see you in the light that he should at this point. And like Cece said, if you're looking for marriage, it's important. But I also think the age of the child is a big factor, because a newborn baby, a baby who can't talk or, really understand what the heck is going on, you might be able to meet a little sooner than someone who is like in their teens 10, or is like at the point where they're actually, when they meet you as a friend, they know what that means. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Toddlers and stuff, they don't, people, they're not gonna really like hold on to that. But an older child definitely would understand that daddy's friend is really a girlfriend and that's not their mommy, and it can create a lot of confusion. And if you're gonna go through that, go through it with the right person. So I think it's just one of those things where it's like, it definitely depends. It depends on the co-parents, it depends on the age of the child, it depends on the nature of the relationship and what you ultimately want. So just being upfront about that. So I love where they are.
I want to throw this out, and especially from y'all looking on the outside in on our, like, even my situation, what happens if you meet the co-parent and that's something that they decided they needed before y'all can move forward, and the co-parent's like, nah, I'm good?
Yeah, that's tough, because I feel like one, it's not the co-parent.
Oh my gosh, Amaris's mom, if you hear me, if you're listening, thank you, Lord.
It's tough because, again, it has a lot to do with age, because if the co-parent doesn't like you and they have a newborn or like a baby, like, you absolutely cannot be around that person's child if they're like, I don't want her around my child. But if the child is self-sufficient, 4 and up type of situation, at the end of the day, you're still an elder. And if your man, or not your man, if you're the father of your child is saying that this is someone I care about and that is going to be a part of my life, that's not your decision to say no. You know what I mean?
So that's exactly what I was going to say. Because I think,
I don't think that matters.
Somewhere in there, one of those like conversations, and I don't think, if I can remember correctly, because there's a lot of stuff that happened, I don't think Amaris's mom was never like, nah, no, she can never be around. But I also do think Sean was like, I'm marrying Angela. like I'm marrying her. So where are we going from there? Now, a lot of arguments, I think, might have came from that. Whatever they were. But I do remember him telling me, I said that I'm marrying you. And I was like, when, my nigga? No, let's stop. But the thing is, he kept saying, trust me. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And I kept freaking out. And then eventually, you know what I'm saying?
Trust that man. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, if a situation like that happens, it's up to your man to fix it. To be the man in that situation and take the lead and, have a discussion with the child's mother on like, this is my intention with this woman. So while I hear you and I empathize with some of your concerns about bringing a new woman around, she's not going nowhere.
Right.
So I'm letting you know what I'm going to do moving forward. And I'd like you to be a part of that. Like, it has to be, on him to be the one to be the bond to between this relationship.
We've talked about like sons and their moms who are doing a lot, like their mothers who are not accepting you into their family. We've had a few episodes on that. I almost equated to that. Like, he has to fix it. Like, you can only do but so much. It has to come from him. He's the centerpiece. And it shows you a lot how your relationship will be moving forward. Because I promise you, the kid's not going away. The kid's not going away. The baby mother is not going away either. It shows you how it's going to be, how he handles it.
Yep.
So actually, why don't you sit back and shut up
Yep.
and watch how he does it?
Great advice, Angela. Sit back and shut up.
You don't have to like me, but you will respect me. And I think that if both women in that situation take that regard, like we don't have to like each other, but we do have to respect each other. Over time, they will start to like each other, because when you respect somebody and their wishes and the way they move, and you know, you're polite and you're courteous, there's nothing to not like anymore.
Right.
So I think if you focus on, like, it's not about liking the person, you're not the one dating them, right? Just respect them.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. I think a lot, and now being a mother and after all of it, like I honestly, like, I get it, like that thing came out of you with this man beside you. You know, you had this idea, this vision of family, and then someone else is going to sit there and do your job 50% of the time. That's got to be tough. So just try to have, if the person's not a psycho killer, whatever, try to have empathy for that lady now, because at some point you'll be the mother. And you just never know. Like, he could turn around, do the same thing, and then you're the next baby mother. Like, have empathy.
Ain't that the truth, girl?
Have empathy for this person. It's tough, especially if you had some heated moments. But if there's maturity involved and you have a heart, like, this person birthed a human and she can't be around them all the time. Like, I'm around my kid all the time. So she literally can't do that. So have empathy for that woman. So it's tough. I think it's tough on all sides, but I think if it's done and it's done respectfully, like you said, it can really be beautiful. And I say that because, and I just keep citing the last time we went to Florida for Amaris' birthday. It was a full family affair, and you look at Amaris and he's so happy. His little sister's there, his dad's there, his mom's there, his grandmother's there, his aunt, his cousins, and we're all getting along and talking and laughing and doing things for him as he turns 9. You know, like, you look at his face, you see his excitement, like, that's what matters. He feels that's what you want. You want your child to feel love. I'm not saying there's challenges that are going to come up, because they keep coming up. They're not going to stop coming up. But if you can figure it out, it's really, honestly, a beautiful thing. It can be. And it can be, and I've seen the ugly side of it too. Like, for example, my brother, at the good age of 30-something, was overseas teaching English to Middle Eastern children, got hit by a car, went missing for weeks.
What?
Yes. My dad flew out there right away, and then my sister paid for their mom to get out there. Why were they in the hospital room, not talking to each other, over their son who's in a coma?
Oh, my gosh.
That, I mean, like, look at the extremes, you know? Like, it's just like, you gotta get over yourself at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
My dad needed to get over himself, and my sibling's mother probably should have, but there was so much hate just from years past. I don't know everything that happened, obviously. I came years later, but at some point, like, people gotta get over themselves and have empathy towards each other and think about what the goal is.
Your future life. It affects everyone you meet moving forward. So I have one more question before we give our ultimate advice to our girl. Now, what happens if you introduce your kid to your person and it's not a vibe? Like, the kid is clearly not vibing with this person. The person's awkward or weird. Like, do you think that's a reason to, like, leave the relationship, or, like, what do you do moving forward in a situation like that?
If it's not a vibe, like, continuously, because, like, the first encounter is going to be awkward, right? It's like, hey, kid, like,
especially if they're older. Like, the little ones are fun. Like, you could just, like, play with them. But if they're older,
it's like they're gonna be a little bit more reserved. So like, so if you notice that this is a trend after many encounters, that may be a sign that, you know, well, okay, like, wait, let me say this, because I was gonna say it may be a sign that it may not be the one, but that's not the case. I think you have to understand what where you are in your relationship with your partner. Like, for instance, if he gets custody of this child maybe during the summers, or every 2 weeks, then you just have to understand what your role is going to be when that child comes around.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that your relationship is broken or that it's going to have any tension, but also you guys have to understand the boundaries that have to be set in place in your relationship, and how that person's relationship with their child could affect you all's relationship.
I completely 100% agree. I don't think it means it's over.
I'm not going to say it's over. Now, could it potentially be over? Yes, because it depends on, like, again, how their relationship is with their child. If they are, like how you mentioned, like you had a friend call you and, like, he's spending a lot more time with his kid, and not the girlfriend's maybe not be getting the attention that she desires. If that is a trend, and you guys have communicated with you've communicated with your partner about how you feel about that, and how you don't feel seen and, like, loved, and like the love is being shared, or if you guys are starting to get into fights over their child, then that might be a sign that this is going to probably give you more tension than
and it could also just be like, if your kid is mad, like, kid is mad that daddy is with another woman, like, you should get that. Like, they've had dad, especially if they're older. I'm assuming that's when most kids would probably be upset about that situation. Yeah. You should try to understand that outside of the kid doing, like, destructive things, like destroying your shit or very
That's what I used to do to my mom's men.
Really?
Oh my God,
I had so much fun.
Outside of that type of stuff, like, I think as two mature adults, you can sit there and acknowledge that this kid is just unhappy with the situation at the moment.
Now,
Acting up for attention too.
It's
sometimes.
attention.
My uncle recently remarried. So my uncle and his ex-wife got divorced a few years ago, and my two cousins, it really affected them greatly. And these are, like, grown men. Like, my cousins are maybe, like, one of them's 2 years younger than me, the other one's 4 years younger than me. And so they're grown men. But now they don't have a relationship with their father anymore, because
no, that's unfortunate.
Their parents split up, and he chose to remarry and find love again, because a lot of love was lost with him and his ex, and it's unfortunate because my uncle is happy. My uncle, like, loves his life, loves his new wife. He now has a stepdaughter that he also loves and is pouring into, and I don't, not to, like, put all my cousins' business out there, but, like, I think that maybe, like, their mom is, like, saying things about their father to them, and it really ripped them apart.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day,
Dad's happy.
I have to give respect to my uncle, because his kids are grown. They're men now, and he can't like continue to after a certain point. You can't continue to, like, live your life strictly for your kids.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You have to choose yourself.
Like, somebody said, when you're in a blended family, you put your children first. Me and Sean were like, no. Even in a blended family, you don't put the children first. You put you guys first, the adult first. Even with Amaris's mother, like, she wanted to move to Florida so bad, and she was, like, really struggling with this point where she was crying and calling him, and he kept telling her, is it going to make you happy? Yeah. And she kept saying yes. So Sean, like, gratefully is like, we'll figure it out. Like, you go, you be happy, because if me and Sean aren't happy and Amaris's mother isn't happy, the kids aren't going to be happy.
Right.
And then at some point they grow up and they leave you. What happens when they leave you? Me and Sean are staring at each other, and Morris, his mom, and I are all looking at each other like, well, now what?
Right.
Because we made our lives about the children.
Right.
And I'm not saying that the children aren't priorities. They are part of your bundle of priorities, but your priorities are still each other at the end of the day. And so when someone said that, me and Sean are like, we disagree. We don't think a blended family the priority should be the children, that it's all about the children. No, in a blended family should be about the family and
it's
each
a
other.
pyramid.
It's exactly.
Start up here.
If you guys aren't okay, if the adults aren't mentally okay and working together, all the stuff below it is going to fall apart.
Yeah. I do think too, with the whole, like, if you introduce the kids and it's weird and whatnot, I think it all depends on the attitude of the woman. So let's say she meets the kid and it's weird. The 3-year-old's like, like, get away from me. And it's like, it's not a vibe. After that first meeting, if she comes to him and she's like, oh my God, I feel so awful. Like, you know, is he normally like that with just strangers? Or like, do you think it was me? Like, if the person is concerned and wants to like work on it. And again, you have multiple times of like getting to that point where that child feels comfortable with you. Cause it does take time, especially at an age like 3, like, especially depending on the kid. Like, even when I first met Lily, after I saw her in her stroller, like when she was a baby, when she first met us, she was like, very shy. She was very like, but by the third time she's seen us, she like loved us. And so it takes time. But if she met the kid and it was off and she didn't bring it up and didn't care, now that would be like
a red flag on her.
If you don't care about my kids liking you, or if you don't care about the dynamic as what our blended family would look like, being something that's solid and has a strong foundation, then maybe that person isn't really in it for what you bring to the table, which is for that person to be a mom.
Right.
So
exactly.
I love it. Okay, now let's go down the line real quick and just give our quick opinion of ultimately feedback for our girl and what she should do. I'll start first. So I think you have every right to be anxious and to have some anxiety around it because it's nervous. It's just like with anything else where, you know, it's new. But I think that if you really love this man and you are excited to be a part of his family, that includes his child. And I think just be yourself and show your heart and make sure you are communicating with your partner when you meet. If things don't go as planned, or if you have any angst or any like feelings that you just want to talk about, just be very open. And I think it's all going to go great. And I know that meeting the mom first might be a little like awkward or weird, but again, just be yourself. Again, she doesn't have to like you. Y'all just got to respect each other.
Okay. To echo. I just want to echo what Brie just said. No, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a situation that you don't really have much control over.
Exactly.
And so don't try to create unnecessary anxiety by trying to control it, because you won't be able to. Yes. And that's okay. 100%. Allow your man to take the lead and build the structure and the boundaries around this foundational relationship. And have trust that he's doing the right thing with the best intentions for all parties involved. 100% he's doing the right thing with allowing you to meet the child's mother first. You know, I mean, it could go either way, right? Like Brie said, like if she likes you, fantastic. If she doesn't, so fucking what? You know? I mean, at the end of the day, like it just has to be like Brie mentioned, it just has to be a respect there. You guys don't have to be besties braiding each other's hair. But you know, at the end of the day, like if he's really serious about you, regardless of how that interaction goes, as long as you're respectful to her, he's going to continue on and allow you to meet his daughter, and you guys will then form your own relationships as a unit. So, you know, be cool. Don't create more stress than you need to, and allow him to lead.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Allow him to lead. And then like, I'm going to manifest that this works for you, because it's going to. It sounds like he's a good man and it's been working out. So I'm going to manifest that this works for you. And to help subdue some of your anxiety, I'm going to tell you, when you become a stepmom, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have opinions, and it's going to be tough. But I just also think a good stepmom just isn't born a good stepmom. Like a good stepmom is made. A good stepmom is built over time and with the person you're with, and to also understand like you're part of the family now. And like, once you accept that and understand that family, and we've said this before in the past, family is not just blood. It's also commitment. And if all of you have commitment to the situation, it can be very beautiful and it can take time, but it can work out and you guys can all grow old together and it be exactly what you have anxiety about, not that. So just, take everybody's advice, look towards the future and know that no, you're not going to be perfect. But if you can make the commitment to it, you can be a very good stepmom.
Amen, honey.
Also, I love seeing people's kids. So if you want to just like slide in our DMs and send us a picture.
This ain't even her kid.
I know, but I want to see.
Don't see a man's kid to breed.
Well, no, after you meet the girl, after you meet the daughter, if you guys hit it off and it's great.
Me, Pri, and Alina, she 3.
I'll bring my invisible child. No, for real though. Like I want to see. So if you meet and it all goes well, so I want to see a picture of like you, your man, his daughter.
Oh my gosh.
I just love and blended families.
Yes,
They're beautiful.
It can be beautiful.
Okay.
Well, we hope this was helpful. And if you are listening and you have some situation that you want some feedback on, definitely write in to help a girl out. Go to relationshiprestored.com, click on For the Girls, and fill out our form. Until then, follow us on Instagram at Brianna Ponte, at Cece Costin, at Angela Hanna, and at Relationship Restored. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review.
Yes, ma'am.
Yours
Love
truly.
you, girls.
Bye.